Hi, everybody. Melissa Klein here. And for the mindset portion of our this week's lesson, I wanted to talk about different perspectives I have about both time as well as art skills. And I've always had a very squishy sense of time and didn't even learn how to read a clock until I was 9 years old. And even then, it's not solid, and just didn't seem to have a really good grasp on how to handle time, and have just struggled with that calendars and oh my gosh, all sorts of modifications to try to like keep myself on track. And But when I was living in Hawaii, I learned a really interesting fact about how Indigenous people look at time. Now, the Western perspective is that time is a linear thing. You have your distant past, you have your, near past, you have your present. Everybody's telling you to live in the present, and then there's sort of the unknown future. And the Hawaiians have a very different perspective. They look at time as a wheel or a circle, and that you're in the middle of that circle. And that maybe, let's say, what happened at 12 o'clock is ancient history, distant, 9 o'clock might be distant past, 6 o'clock, whatever you want to call it. And then up until like the present might be at like 12:01, like right next to ancient history. But no matter where you're at on that wheel, you are equal distance away from whatever event that happened in the past. And that actually later on made a lot more sense to me, even both at the time and later on, when I learned that when people have sort of when they remember something, particularly if it's traumatic, unfortunately, their brains will light up just like it did when the incident happened. So, like, let's say somebody survived a car crash, and you ask them to recount it. They've done studies where their brains will, the exact same memories will, be elicited. They'll show the same patterns as somebody who had that happen just, that day or something like that. And so we actually do emotionally experience time, is more like the indigenous populations do. And that was actually very comforting to me in a weird way. And then fast forward too to like thinking about art skills, and the Western perspective is, you have your beginner, oh my God, and you have your intermediate, like, oh yeah, you should go to art school. Yeah, okay, taking some classes, and then of course the advanced, like, oh, you're a professional, whatever. Um, and I really have a different perspective on that as well, because many times I feel like a beginner with my own art, and own projects and things that I'm learning. There's other things I feel like I got down. Zorn palette is a great example of something where I felt like, wow, that really kind of put me in the beginner. Uh, you know, Even though I'd had a lot of experience with mixing paints and considered myself good at matching things. That was, and that's fine. I look at it more like a wheel. So that you're kind of equal distance from these quadrants, and you might be spending different amounts of time in these quadrants depending on your project or what you need for what you want to do. So, you have your drawing quadrant, your color and light, composition, and then what I call a creativity or the X factor. And there's all different types of ways, just, these are somewhat arbitrary ways to delineate it. But I just kind of wanted to point out to you, like, it can be very freeing to think on a wheel rather than on a continuum, because a continuum, I think, or on that line, sort of makes you, kind of puts us in a very judgmental, like, I'm still a beginner, and or why am I not further along, or I wish I'd done something else, or blah blah blah. And I think that this, looking at it more like a wheel, and also, I mean, hey, don't we, I don't know about you, but I can't stand people who act like they know everything, they got everything down. I'm like, part of me feels very envious, because I'm like, wow, must be feel like so good to be such an expert in everything and never wrong. But I think you're missing out on some of the human experience and joy of being a beginner, or the excitement of being an intermediate who is getting some skills down, and showing progress, and still has the sort of an excitement there. They're all really wonderful places to be. And I think if you're still learning, then you're going to be a beginner at some point. And that's awkward, but wonderful. So have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.